Welcome to the Proper Cap Madcap Coffee Podcast. We are joined this morning by one of our longest standing producing partners, Ashley Prentice from Finca de Dios and Fraijanes, Guatemala. We've been working with the Prentices for 16 years, 15, 16 years, 17 years, something like that, almost since we started. And so I guess Josiah was going to do a proper
You kind of stole my thunder.
I'm sorry,
but that's all right.
There's more. You can share some of Ashley's accolades.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're going to have to speak to some of your accolades, and because I did a little bit of research. Obviously, a handful of people at Madcap have spent a lot of time with you, but there's a lot to unpack with your story in terms of like, you're a licensed Q grader. That's a fascinating aspect in the coffee industry. You have a master's degree in coffee science and economics. Like, that sounds like a whole nother podcast right there. You're running a coffee company in Guatemala that we're getting the benefit of drinking some Pacamara from you, which is just a stunning coffee. And I don't know, I think in the training space you had sent maybe like 12 different coffees that we got to choose from or something wild like that. So I had a hard time picking what we were going to drink today, but we figured this one would be like a really good special one to enjoy.
Yeah, Riley, our QC specialist, recommended the Pacamara. So why don't you start, Ashley? Your mother inherited a coffee farm, but you didn't have to work in coffee. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into like why you decided to pursue a coffee education in Europe and just how you ended up on that path of keeping coffee in the family, I guess?
Yeah, and again, thank you for having me, guys. This is really exciting. Well, it's kind of funny because yes, we had this. I'm a third generation coffee producer, so I did grow up going to the farm, and you would think that this entrance or spark started at the farm, but actually it started working at a coffee shop. And I guess the little seed has always been that coffee is in our family, and we have this coffee farm. And I think when you were mentioning how long Madcap has bought from Finca de Dios, it's almost the amount of time that my mom has had her part of the land. So curiously, when I was studying in college, I had never really thought about coffee. I thought I was going to be a doctor my whole life. That's a curious fact. Yeah. And yeah. And then after college, I wanted to stay working in the United States, and my mom was starting to work at her part of the farm, which presented her own challenges. And I was hearing about it every time we would talk, because the part of the land that she got didn't have the wet mill, didn't have infrastructure. It was the coffee plants. And while I was looking for full-time jobs, I decided to work in a coffee shop. And I remember that summer had also taken some barista classes here in Guatemala at the ANA Cafe, the National Coffee Association. And so in my application, I was like, here are my diplomas of the courses I've taken. And I come from a coffee producing family. And they were very excited. They were like, okay, you're hired, And I was an awful barista because I'm not I'm not very good at like multitasking. I'm a little clumsy, so they used to put me in the cash register all the time. But it was very interesting because they roasted in that cafe, and I started discovering that coffees from Brazil were different from Guatemala and different from Ethiopia, and this whole world of aromas, flavors, origin of coffee. And I think that was like the first thing that sparked my fascination for coffee.
That's so fascinating. So like when you started those barista classes, coffee had been in your family for just a few years, at least in terms of your mom's role in the farm?
Well, Actually, the farm had been a family business for my grandfather, for her, for the whole family. And my mom studied, she's an agronomist or agricultural engineer. So since she was young, she had taken over the project of planting and rescuing the coffee from the land that my grandfather to have. He used to have horses. But my mom, like, she was going to college and she started taking this project of recovering and pruning all the old plants and replanting the farm with coffee. When my grandfather and grandmother passed away, the farm got divided, and that was when my mom got her part.
Got it. That's so
Mhm.
interesting because similar to your story of falling into coffee kind of accidentally. It's like your mom was intentional with planting and caring for the land, but it also is kind of happenstance. Like you just kind of fell into like a beautiful coffee farm. And then obviously what you guys have done over the past 20 some years of developing the land even further has been crazy and been able to produce some beautiful coffees. But like it's kind of interesting to hear how that story just kind of unfolded for you and for your mom as well.
And the farm wasn't specialty previous to your mom taking it over, correct?
Well, sort of. So it's interesting, but when they were planting the coffee in my grandfather's time, really this has been like a project that my mom has led, being the agronomist. And my grandfather supported her. But they would sell, to the coyote or to exporters like a conventional coffee. And then I don't know at what year they went to a specialty coffee trade show in the US with my grandfather. And George Howell tried the coffee and he told my mom and my grandfather, "Hey, you have specialty coffee. This is a good coffee." And so they were like, "What?" So I think that's where also the quality chip of somebody telling them what the kind of coffee they have and the quality they have sparked another journey of quality focused coffee production. I think this is changing, hopefully, but it happens many times that producers are planting coffee because our grandfathers did, but they don't try it. They don't know how to cut. They don't understand quality. So sometimes you're selling great quality coffee as a conventional coffee, and all it required it was understanding what quality coffee is.
Yeah. Was there like a specific moment for you in your, like, kind of before you took on a bigger role, like that your path and your mind kind of switched where you're like, I'm going to be a doctor. And then there was a moment where you're like, actually, I think I might go get my master's in coffee science and economics. Like, was there a specific, like, eyes opening sort of change of path, or was that kind of over time things unfolded for you?
Yeah. I think it was a little over time because when I had this realization that, wow, being a doctor is this very, hard, long, sacrifice career, and I don't think it's for me. I was pretty much undecided for a while. I didn't know what I was going to do exactly. I studied business, but right at the time when I was working at this coffee shop, um, I was applying to different jobs, nothing to do with coffee. And at one point, I think it was through a Women in Coffee conference or something. I got connected to the owner of Coffee Talk magazine back in the day, and she was needing some support they are based on in Washington, Seattle, well, sort of Vashon Island, but I'll get to that in a moment. But so I applied to that job, and she hired me to help with the publishing magazine, and they actually are based on an island. So I had never been to the West Coast, never been to Seattle. So she's like, we're based on an island. You can live on the island. And I was like, great, this is going to be like Hawaii. Um, no, it's very dark, very gloomy. I had no idea what I was getting into. Um, But I think getting into that job was an amazing exposure to the coffee industry because since they're a coffee publishing magazine, and what we did was I was reading about coffee all the time, so learning all the time. We were going to different trade shows, so I was able to get to know a lot of people and understand the coffee industry. And I think the more I learned about the industry, I became passionate about coffee. I wanted to learn more. I started understanding a little bit how the industry works, where usually there's, a bunch of middlemen, sometimes unnecessary, most times unnecessary. Um, but it just became like very fascinating to me. So at that job is when I decided to apply for the master's in coffee economics and science in Italy. So I
Yeah,
guess
so
I really like
tell us
coffee.
so yeah, you were going to school for business. So you got your degree in business. Then when you realized that coffee was the thing you wanted to pursue, you decided because you don't hear a lot about coffee degrees or
Higher
I mean,
education.
yeah, I know UC Davis and there's some other higher learning institutions now that are offering more degrees and things that are, or at least involve coffee. But yeah,
Mhm.
usually I think I'm not abnormal in the coffee industry where I dropped out of school. And coffee accepted me regardless of that. And so, yeah, it's just not super common. And so I find it very fascinating that, yeah, you were, you know, you had coffee producing in your family, but you were not pursuing coffee. And then you found it through the barista path, ironically, working through a coffee shop and then working for a
Barista.
magazine. Yeah, yeah, barista. We won't ask any questions about what that looked like. Um, but yeah, so tell us about this degree that you went to Italy to get, and I'd love to hear, like, like, how did that impact your coffee career? Like, did it motivate you even more? Did you find a lot of value from that?
Yes, absolutely. I so the coffee masters in science that has been developed is by the Ely Coffee Foundation and local universities in Italy, either the Trieste University or the Udine University. So it's actually a wonderful program, and the Ely Foundation gives scholarships to individuals from producing countries. So one of the big reasons I applied was because there was this scholarship. So it was very fascinating because thank God I had the opportunity to get the scholarship and go study there. But it's fascinating because you're studying with people from Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Brazil, Colombia, Germany, Italy, various parts of Central America. So we learn a lot in the classroom because we're taking classes of soil chemistry, plant biology, franchising, coffee quality. So you're kind of get like this really broad and holistic understanding of every aspect of the coffee industry. And you learn probably half from the teachers in the classroom, but the other half is from your other classmates that are from different origins of the world, and they were sharing how it's done in our country. So it was a really wonderful experience. I think also in the coffee industry, since it's now, I think, like you said, UC Davis has this different degrees, but at that point, it was very pretty much the only master's or degree you could get in coffee. So I think it gave a lot of validity in the coffee industry to grow as a professional and to get different jobs in different parts of the industry. So I know a lot of my classmates have grown a lot because the base has been this master's, but there's a lot of companies that want this education and people that want to grow in this. So it opens a lot of opportunities.
That's awesome.
Totally. When you took that step and you were like, I'm going to go to Italy, I'm going to get this degree, what were you hoping that you'd be able to do with that degree? And like, are you doing that now, or did that change as well? Because I feel like that's kind of a lot of people's story. I mean, that's my story with just my undergrad, but like a lot of people go to school and they're like, I'm going to do this. And it's like, actually, you're not going to actually do that at all. You might use some tools from it, but.
No, I think it's a good question. I think I was like, I don't think I had this specific plan. I think I just kind of kept on being hungry of learning about the coffee industry. And so I kept on like falling into or looking for opportunities to grow and to learn more. Um, I, I don't think I think I was very like undecided. I didn't know if the masters was gonna open all these different opportunities. I think as I went, things became clear in what I wanted to do and what brought me to actually um start Gento coffee.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, yeah. So before we get to Gento, because before Gento, so you got your education with the Masters of Coffee Science, and then uh, obviously you didn't necessarily have plans to go back home to work on the
Not yet.
farm, correct? Or was
Yeah,
it, or
not yet.
no? Okay.
Well, and this is the other thing that I might add. The farm wasn't gonna pay me a full-time job. So we can get to that later too. But I I think I still wanted I felt like I still needed to grow professionally, and I was looking to do that outside. So after the masters, I went to work with an importing company.
Oh,
Interesting. So you work with an importing company. Where were you based out of there? Like, so school was in Italy, families in Guatemala. Importing company was that back in
And
Guatemala?
well, no, it was in LA, Los
In
Angeles.
LA.
oh, that's when you were in LA.
Uh-huh. That was when I was in LA. So it was right after the masters. Curiously, I think somebody from the company was heard that I was doing the masters, so they were like, "Oh, we would love to have you when you finish." So I do think the masters gives you a lot of validity professionally in the coffee industry. So thankfully that door was opened and I was able to go to Los Angeles and work for this importing or trading company, which was very fascinating because then you start understanding about a lot deeper in real life, not theory, about the sea market and how trading is done and what actually happens in the coffee supply chain. And um, here, I think I was feeling, kind of in my limbo where I was like, okay, so I'm reaching a point where I'm learning a lot and I really loved coffee. I did want to come back to Guatemala, especially to, apply knowledge that I had acquired. And mostly I think I was understanding how trading and the coffee industry was somehow broken. That's what I felt. And I wanted to do something to change that.
That is amazing insights. So when you, at what point did you decide you were going to go back home to Guatemala?
So I think I had worked in in Los Angeles about a year, half or 2 years. And I don't remember what was happening at the moment, but I kind of just wanted to come back. But I felt like if I came back to Guatemala, weren't going to be any career opportunities for me. Like I I didn't know where I was going to go because if I would go to the farm couldn't hire me full time.
Hmm.
And it happens around that time I was Anacafe had this project. Anacafe is the National Coffee Association, and they were about to need somebody to help with this project. It was a rural value chains project that worked with producers, small producers, financed by USAID, and they started talking to me. So then I was like, okay, there might be opportunities in Guatemala. So I think, that I think started getting me to go back. And by this time, I already had people that were asking me for roasted coffee, and I would take it back in my bag, to sell to them. And like, I was smuggling coffee and selling it. So I started seeing that there was one, a demand from friends and family for Guatemalan coffee, two, that Guatemala has great coffees and there's a lot to do with that. And three, it was kind of like, again, going back to, this coffee industry is broken. So I really want to do something or build something to be able to change how trading, the traditional trading models function.
I feel like, and I hope I'm not the first person to say this, you might be the most qualified coffee person like out there. The amount of experience you
No,
have
probably not.
and just like widespread is fascinating, to like the skills that you've acquired in each one of those spots, and then just degrees alone, like that's pretty like it's really impressive.
Oh, thank
And
you.
yeah, because I feel like kind of what you were saying earlier, a lot of people in coffee kind of stumble into like a position, and then they gain experience in that position,
Yeah.
which qualifies them to be efficient in that role. But you like, it seems very strategic, at least from this perspective. Maybe in the moments you were like, I'm just kind of feeling out what the next chapter is. But
Yeah.
And
I don't want to misspeak,
Thank
but I
you.
feel like the first part of your story is you can, I mean, you obviously can speak to this better. A lot of the next generation of coffee producers, where they are leaving because there isn't an opportunity to make a decent living, and so they leave. And so where your story is unique is that you came back. So you had all these experiences, you had all this education, you did all these different things, but then you came back to participate at the farm. And so I think that is a unique story. I think we're seeing that more and more, but it's a similar, I mean, would you disagree? It's a similar story where the second or third generations are learning, and they're taking back what they've learned and then creating opportunities for themselves to make a living at doing coffee.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I think there is a how do you call this? Like getting the next generation involved in coffee has been a big issue for many years. Like the new generation doesn't want to take over the farm or agronomy. But I do feel that understanding cupping, barista skills, coffee preparation, like connecting the whole value chain and transmitting this knowledge to that new generation can get them to get more involved. And that's why it's so important.
Do you feel that knowledge also lends weight to being able to build a business structure at the farm level that does make it sustainable? Because you mentioned a couple of times about, partly why you didn't come back was because you knew you wouldn't be able to pay yourself a decent salary, right? And so I think, which is fair, right? When if as a young person, you're leaving to go get an education and realize, like, well, now I have this education and I could make a decent living doing these other things. Why would I go back to coffee farming, where I can't pay myself very well, right? Like, so do you feel like a lot of that education and being able to apply that I mean, because you talked about working for an importer and a trader, and just and understanding a lot of the middlemen that are involved, and all of those things are adding costs, right? And so for essentially an end user like a roaster, we're not necessarily, depending on how involved the roaster is in the sourcing process, they may not know where all these costs are coming from. And so being more involved, or at least being willing to pay more, is one thing. But, I don't think most roasters, and I mean, the market is as more challenging than ever
Wild.
currently.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like, do you, like, I get the sense, and we work with a lot of producers where the next generation is involved is more involved in participating, but they are demanding higher prices and bringing more value, I think, to that farm level.
And I think that's the key word that you're saying is what I feel I learned is how and where I can bring more value so that this can also become, something that sustains me. curiously, because in the time frame, since my mom got her part and they were building infrastructure, they had to build partnerships and new relationships since zero. There wasn't really a place for me yet. So I kind of came to make my own place, if
Mm,
that can make, if that can, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Um, and it kind of worked really nice because, so my mom is the agronomist. She, is in charge of the farm, and, she does a great job with quality there. My dad, he's an
He's a bird
electrical
watcher.
engineer. And yeah, but he has been so critical. Even if he had another job, he, is in charge of the wet mill and anything that's machinery. And he has supported a lot to that. And then my part came when, I came to maybe try to find value or add value doing innovating and processing. Um, Being able to cup the coffees and understand how to segment our lots so we could offer the best qualities to this market and the so to this this client that wants to blend, coffee and sell it at different pricing. So um I do think that for the next generation to add value, we need to have the opportunities to grow in different aspects of the coffee industry, not only farming. Because I think the thing that empowered me the most to add more value was understanding how coffee quality works, how the markets work, and being able to make a match between this quality needs to be offered here and this needs to be offered here, and being able to even stuff that we thought, oh, this is probably not the best coffee, learn how to use that and sell it better. And currently, we as Gento do workshops for farmers, and this is what we try to teach them too, because for farmers or the next generation, I feel understanding quality and not being told what your quality is, but you understanding what's your quality is your best bargaining power.
Mm. That's a sweet, actually tee up to kind of segue into talking about Gentoo a little bit. So, because you just alluded to it, the things that you learned and the value you brought back to your own family's farm, now through Gentoo, you're providing that for that's a resource now that you're providing for other producers, correct? So, do you want to talk about
Yes.
Gentoo?
Yes, absolutely. So, Gento really started, and I think the whole concept started when I was in LA. Like, I was like, I want to do something different. But starting a business, as you know, it takes a while and is a lot of work. So, it took a little while to kind of build the idea. But I knew I wanted to do obviously something in coffee. I wanted to have an impact with small producers who usually are the most removed um, from the market and um, usually undertake most of the risk. And so I wanted to go beyond our family farm. Our family farm is one of the coffees that we offer at Gento. I would say it's kind of like our house coffee because it was one of the first ones. Um, but really, the concept with Gento was being able to eliminate all those unnecessary middlemen and take a roasted coffee directly to the consumer. Um, Being able to leave more value in this country. So it's it was a little wild at the time because logistically this hasn't really been possible and it presents a lot of challenges. But if Ely Coffee can do it from Italy, and they're not even a producer country, why can't we as producing countries do it ourselves? Because usually, and I think this is like a coffee barometer, but only 10% of the value of coffee stays in origin countries. And this is because we sell raw material. So the concept behind Gento was kind of breaking these barriers and being able to add more value here at the origin, have the impact with producers, and be able to pay them more because we're leaving more of that value here in the country. And we're eliminating unnecessary middlemen because I understand that there's very necessary middlemen that help the coffee industry.
So just to clarify, is part of the goal to kind of maintain some of the quality goods within Guatemala? Because something I've heard, and this could just, I could be wrong on this, is like the 10% that stays in origin countries is usually not the highest quality of the goods because they could sell that elsewhere.
The coffee, yeah.
Right? Because with Gento, you're working locally in Guatemala with accounts. Like you have a wholesale program, but is it all within Guatemala, or are you shipping
We
internationally
ship
to?
too,
Okay, cool.
internationally. So we do both locally. And yes, to your point, it's one of our missions is increasing the better consumption of better quality coffee in country. So that's one of our missions, very important. So we have both. We sell B2C and we sell B2B. So we have the wholesale as well. And we have, we ship to people's houses as well. And then internationally, we also have had the opportunity to grow our wholesale accounts and also send people coffee to their homes, and send them good quality coffee from the origin. Because to your point, first, for many, for centuries, I think the good coffee has been exported and the bad coffee stays in country. So we have terrible consumption here, not in yes in quantity, but also in quality. And it was actually, one of the mind-blowing things, and sometimes I say these to our clients, but eh, even you guys like Madcap or roasters that would come to Guatemala to buy amazing coffees and pay great prices, you would bring your coffee in your how you call it, in your suitcase,
Suitcase.
because you knew that the restaurant, the hotel would serve awful coffee. So today we see a difference. We see specialty coffee growing in Guatemala. We see specialty coffee shops. The consumer is kind of becoming more aware of what specialty coffee is, but we still have a lot to grow.
Yeah.
And we often we still do this, but bring especially from different origins, bring coffees to our producers so they can try try
love that.
other coffees
The
as well.
Ethiopias.
Well, and that's got to help, kind of what you were talking about of educating the next generation on supply chain and the value chain, essentially. But putting the quality coffee in front of people in origin has to only help that, right? Where they're tasting like, oh my gosh, like this is coming from our region of our country. Like it's got to be empowering in that regard, rather than just going to the restaurant and drinking like lower quality coffee. It's like, that's not exciting.
Yeah. And it's funny because sometimes you go to visit a producer and they offer you coffee and they serve you instant coffee, and you're like, well, what about the coffee that you produce? And they sold it. So yeah, that culture of consuming good quality, and it is very important. And one of the things that, and I think I'll go back to add kind of like the mission with Gento was that farmer education. So we have a percentage of the profits that goes specifically into farmer education, and we have some food security programs in some of the communities that we buy coffee from. But one of the biggest things has been to see producers grow through understanding the quality and reach better markets. And it's been really nice because Gento now has, so we have the brand of roasted coffee, but we don't buy the 100% of coffee of the producers that we work with. So we've been able to also connect them as to roasters that want to buy that quality coffee and that are interested in the farmer education programs we're doing. And they kind of believe in that, the whole mission. And it's been nice to create those direct relationships and be a platform for producers to reach more markets.
Like you kind of answered a question I haven't even asked, because I was gonna I was going to ask, like, why start a coffee roasting company and not like an exporting company? And obviously exporting sends it out of the country, but you're kind of playing that role of networking and pointing people to the right direction and building relationships, even if Gento can't 100% buy everything. You're kind of doing a little bit of.
You've become a middleman, Ashley.
I became the middleman. Yeah.
But a good one.
But I think
a good quality
The
middleman.
middle woman. You're the middle woman.
I would say I'm a middleman. No, but I think I would call, yes. I think that the whole point is that there's strategic how would you say, alliances or partners, right? Partners that are essential in the coffee industry because they provide support in specific areas such as financing or quality control, or they're strategic partners. I feel those are not the unnecessary middlemen I'm talking about. The unnecessary middleman I'm talking about is, coffee being traded anonymously and passing through various middlemen that you have no idea where that coffee comes from and who knows what the farmer got paid. So I think originally that was the concept with the model. It's been interesting to find this need by roasters, but also producers to have support in creating these partnerships, because especially for small producers, not only the language barrier is difficult to create this direct relationship, but also they don't know how to negotiate an FOB price because they're used to selling either cherry or parchment. And so understanding and having somebody help them to, in a form, be able to sell it and be transparent with the logistical cost and what's going to happen, and having it done as fair as possible has been a need I've seen in the industry. And it happens also with roasters. Sometimes there's roasters that maybe are newer to the industry or start the business, but you don't necessarily understand the whole aspect of coffee producing or the costs that are involved into taking a coffee all the way to an FOB. So how do we negotiate how I think what I found is like the need to support understanding how to do and better negotiations in a more transparent and ethical way.
Those are great insights.
Yeah. You're rewriting the script of like how it should be done and not letting history continue to repeat itself.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
How many?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. How many producing partners are you working with at Gento? And I know you're working in Huehuetenango, and what other regions are you also working in?
Yeah, so Huehue probably is the one that we are working the most in, but we work in Huehue, San Marcos, Antigua, and we're doing a lot of like neighbor farms around Fraijanes and Oriente as well. I think the idea has been to kind of grow slowly but steadily the relationships. So not trying to grab a bunch of, new producers and offer every region of Guatemala, but be able to have stable relationships with the producers that we have brought in and actually be able to buy more and more from them. That is what we're seeing has the bigger impact. Not only, if we want to think about a quality pyramid, not only buying kind of like the cherry of the pie, but understanding how to use and sell all the different qualities so we can have a bigger impact. And I think to the amount of producers we work with, I would probably have to count, but
Put you on the spot.
yeah, but we're working with small producers directly, and then we work with some co-ops as well. So within the co-ops, there's like groups of women producers, and so I would probably have to do a head count. But Huehue is the region where
you're working with quite a few producers. Moral of the story.
Then where are you?
Thank God it has been growing.
Yeah. Where are you based out of? Where is like your home base, your office?
In Guatemala City.
Okay. So is that challenging having producer partners kind of across the scope of Guatemala? Because I know getting to different regions of Guatemala isn't necessarily like you hop on a freeway and you're there in an hour. Logistically, is that pretty?
Especially the
No,
Huehue
you're
streets.
stuck in
Yeah.
Guatemala City.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it's still closer here because we're at least here it's a little closer than even you guys and
True.
you guys come and visit down here. I think I mean it's still obviously in some way a challenge, but it has been nice because we are, I'm able to go there, but also they are able to come here to our facilities to learn. So we've had the producers come and learn about cupping. We've done some barista for some of the training for some of the younger generation. And it's been very interesting because we even had this year a this was like a project that was very interested in kind of these workshops that we were giving. So we sponsored the sons and daughters of some of our producing partners, and they sponsored like another set of producers so we could make a bigger workshop. And we were teaching, and this one wasn't but we were teaching these young kids, so the next generation, how to cup, how to prepare brewing methods, how to do, barista skills, and try to spark that interest so that they can go back to their producing families or to their co-ops to apply a little bit about these knowledges and how they can increase quality and kind of put that quality chip in their mind and help them get involved a little more as a new generation.
I didn't even think about how special that opportunity is to be able to have producers just come straight to you like that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
How big is your team at Gento? Like what you're doing makes it sound like there's 500 employees.
No,
And
not at all. We're
because you're doing a lot.
We're small. Yeah. Yeah, we're small. I mean, we're 8 and I have one person in the US that does half-time. Yeah, we've thankfully grown, but we're not a big team, but we have a good team. Thankfully, it's been a good team that it's they do a great job here and they're passionate also about coffee. The roaster here has been in coffee like 15 years to roasting coffee. So, um, and they also enjoy learning about coffee, but teaching it. So when we give these workshops, they are also passionate to be able to share the knowledge with producing partners or different people. So I think that's has been important of the culture that we built here.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Can we pivot back to Finca de Dios? I can't remember exactly when we're like 48 minutes in. Anyways, let's just talk about Finca de Dios. I pointed out this picture earlier, and this, I think it was before we started recording, but this wasn't intentional. This is a picture of you and your parents in your greenhouse with the raised beds. And I want to pick on you to share this story about the first time the greenhouse was built after Madcap had been visiting with you, purchasing from you all for a couple of years, and then the roof getting ripped off. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And how excited your dad was to build this greenhouse?
Yeah, thankfully my dad's not here because he would go on a tangent. But yeah, so I think these are the things, that add value, I feel, that are, you start learning about the coffee industry or learning with direct relationships like, we've had with you guys or we've been fortunate to have with our clients. But we were understanding that the raised beds or coffee drying is such a critical aspect of coffee quality. So I convinced my parents and brought this project that we needed to build a greenhouse. And so, we made all the plans and it took quite some convincing. And finally my dad agreed to it, and he's like, okay, we're gonna do this. And so we sketched all the plans. We had help of this other engineer to, kind of plan it because he had done one before. And I think we built it around I don't remember, but let's say it was like around this time of the year. And then it was built, we were ready for the next harvest. We were excited, and I think it was around November when we get really bad winds and the roof flies off. When there was like a storm, the roof flies off. And my dad was so mad. He was just, oh my gosh. He was like, "You see, why did you make us do this?" And like if I had sent the storm, and so it was awful because here I am trying to bring innovative ideas and it kind of goes under and it's this huge expense, right? And so I obviously feel bad. So, but the greenhouse is there. We just need to fix the roof. So he fixes the roof and he makes, something a little more robust that can handle winds. And, it's nice because, going back to that point where he is furious and why are you doing this? Why did we do this? Um, I can see now, and they can see now the benefit of having invested in the greenhouse because we get feedback from our clients all the time of how the coffee, is lasting so long. The flavor is doing well. It's not getting old. And it's one of the coffees that they have sometimes on the shelf that lasts the longest. And I feel am really happy to hear this because, well, not only the investment and, the whole ordeal was worth it, my dad yelling at me, but we brought more value to our client, not because we provided a higher quality score at the moment, because quality also comes because you can use the coffee longer. So, they really appreciate that. And I feel like some of our clients buy year after year because they know they're going to get this consistent, good quality, well dried coffee. And my parents see that as well. So I think that was also one of the first projects I brought. And I think also being on, this next generation, sometimes bringing these ideas on processings or, let's make this natural or let's experiment with this new process of coffee sometimes can bring a little bit of hesitance. But it's nice to see when it works out.
No, and what's cool is, and I know you've overheard these conversations, but I'm like pretty consistently when I bring a new member of a member of my team for the first time to visit you all, inevitably your dad will walk through the greenhouse and I'll mention the story and then your dad will talk about how much better the coffee is because you all have it, right? So
Yeah.
so they believe it. They believe in it. It worked. So it was worth it. But I always have
And
to give them a hard time with.
And I'm glad we can laugh about it now because before, I would tell clients like, don't mention the greenhouse, like it's a touchy subject, like my dad gets a little, but it's been
Well, and I think in the
been a
same
great
way,
time.
like, when we walk through Finca de Dios with you all, there's been times where I've heard you and your mom having conversations about some variety that you planted on the farm that she's not super excited about having growing on the farm and it's not really yielding much and things. But so I think just talking about like how many varieties are you all growing it? Because we're like for the first time really we've bought a few different varieties from you this year that we're getting ready to roll out pretty soon that we're very excited about. But that's another thing that you brought, right? I mean, I know your mom's an agronomist and she loves plants and things, but I get the sense that this passion to really explore different varieties and what would work with the terroir and things that you guys have at Finca de Dios came from you, was inspired by you. Would that be correct?
Well, yeah, and I think with some of the processing, because I think you guys got the anaerobic yellow caturra this year. So it's one of the unique varieties, but also a new process, right, that we've been doing. And I've been thankful because my mom has been open enough to do the experiments. And obviously, we try them in a lower scale, and then we kind of like have been growing it, especially as our clients have enjoyed it and we get their feedback. Um, but I think we have different varieties. So we have geisha, pacamara, java. Um, we have the yellow caturas, bourbon, normal caturas, and we have pacas. So I think I said them all. Um, oh, we have an orange one too, but it's not in a big scale. And we had some SL28, but I think the plants were not doing good. And I think to your story, somebody gave me some seeds of a Blue Mountain that I got a little excited about. It was, this marketing scam. And we planted it. And 4 years later, I tasted it. And it's like, you can tell on the table that just jumps and it's awful. So it was like this peanut
No way.
cup. And I told my mom, you have to cut them. They're awful. They have nothing to, the profile is completely different. And she's like, well, no, because now I've invested 4 years on them. So, I think, by now we've slowly been changing them. But yeah, that was one of the ones that didn't work. Thankfully, the other ones, the geisha de Pacamara, have been really good. So
Yeah, it took a while, and I think consumers do not appreciate, and I don't know if you get the same interactions even with your Gento customers in Guatemala, but I don't think they appreciate when a producer is investing in experimentation, especially with varieties, the time investment of years until you start seeing those
yeah,
trees producing fruit. And I mean, it's mind blowing to me, and it still blows me away anytime when we're visiting some of our producers that are investing a lot in a nursery where they're trying to, I mean, even for just, stumping and replacing dead trees and everything else, but the amount of time investment you all have to make before you even know what you're going to get. I mean, it is I can
right.
understand your mom's hesitancy and fear
Absolutely.
in
Yeah.
those situations.
Oh, yeah. I think it's to your point. I think sometimes even that final consumer drinking that cup of coffee, it has sometimes no idea all those years of investment or even all the steps that it took that same year to produce that cup of coffee. So it's actually been nice also to be on this side of the, sell roasted coffee and talk directly to the consumer, because there is usually there's this whole gap between, the producer and it's been nice to kind of go back and forth and be able to take, those consumer tendencies back to producer and producer, process and struggles and educate the consumer. So I think it's important for all of us in the coffee industry to try to look to get more connected and have those kind of circular relationships where we're trying to benefit all. We've been fortunate to have great clients like, Madcap, that have, that you guys have come to the farm every year and been growing the relationship. And I remember my dad's first AeroPress was taught by you guys. So, that connection, having, that connection is so important, and having, um, seeing also how you guys value the coffee that we produce has added so much value to the work that my mom does, or my dad does, and that we do every year, because it's a lot of work.
That's cool. This is like more maybe a sciencey question that might just be a dumb question.
I mean, it's probably a good question for a master of coffee science.
I feel like you'd be a good person to ask. When you try out a new variety to plant on the farm, is there certain data that you can pull ahead of time to be like, this type of variety should do well in this climate? Like, I'm thinking of it from a lens of roasting, where it's like we can pull like moisture and like density readings and have a little bit of a gauge of like how that coffee might roast. Is there anything similar to that before you plant, or is it just we're going to try this and 4 years later we're going to cup it and hope it's good?
Yeah, well, that's actually a great question. There's a couple things. Well, first, I don't think there's like data that readily available. Like it would be like you were saying, like, here's the moisture and this and that, and this adapts perfectly. We are fortunate as a country to have a National Coffee Association and a cafe that does a lot of the research. And so then we might know this variety has adapted well to these regions. Um, but there is a problem with seed banks down here. So obviously the first factor in quality is the genetics and your seed. And if we don't get a good seed, it's a big risk. And it happens to us sometimes. We have a small nursery, but we don't have the capacity or the area to build all our nursery. And it happens to us that we send the seeds to another place and sometimes give you other plants. So that is an issue. Sometimes it's happened, let's say like the geisha I got it from a nearby farm where it adapted well and they were the guinea pigs with that seed and they were kind enough to share it with me. But if not, you're kind of risking it.
Yeah, I feel like the more I think about that, the more like crazy and like just massive of a project that feels, but very rewarding when it works out, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh,
like,
we just found,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think the lesson is you just need to be very careful where you get the seed from and who you trust when they're giving it. The Blue Mountain, I got it from, somebody that hadn't tried it in their land. They were just like, hey, I have this extra and I'm planting it as well. Do you want some? And I was like, oh, it sounds amazing. Let's do it. Which was not amazing. So, I think where your seed comes from and that it has been actually validated in maybe a nearby region, but at least Guatemala in general, is important, and that it's a good quality seed because that happens also all the time with geishas. There's strains of geisha that are not so good, and people plant it, and then 4 years later they have this geisha that is not, is never going to be that competition coffee cup quality. So it's a big risk.
Everyone should pay more for coffee. That's the moral of the story. Ashley, as we get close to wrapping up, is there what new are there new projects you have going with Gento or at Finca de Dios that you would want our listeners to know about?
Well, I think here at Gento, I think we're excited to be growing more. Thankfully, we've gotten more accounts and people that they are getting on board with our mission. So I'm excited to continue growing that and growing Gento in general, and being able to even have more impact with more producers that we can start working with. And I guess something that I'm very excited about is featuring that new yellow Caturra anaerobic coffee that you guys are probably going to launch, because it's a new process that we've been putting a lot into. And I'm curious and excited to see, how the clients perceive it and how they like it. And, is this something that we are going to continue growing more with our processing with the naturals and varieties? And we usually just do those kind of by demand because they're very long processes, more expensive, more risky. But I'm very excited that this is, you guys got excited and it's going to go out to consumers soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as you know very well, we don't normally, Madcap does not do a lot of alternate processing outside of fully washed coffees. So when we do them, our customers do tend to get excited to try them. So I think just the fact that it's an anaerobic coffee will probably get people, they'll be excited to try it just because we don't do it very often. And then I think we've been buying coffee from you all almost since day one. So, our customers recognize Finca de Dios name for sure.
That's exciting.
And so it's fun to be able to offer them something else from you all outside of what we normally do year over year. So we're all very excited about it. I think I meant to look before
when it's dropping.
Yeah, it's sometime next month.
We'll have to put it in the show.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes and
I'm excited.
Make sure people know.
We got to get Casey on the phone.
Yeah, we should call him in.
Oh,
he's at the day off today. So, well, Ashley, we won't keep you any further. I do just want to express a lot of gratitude. We have just thoroughly enjoyed our partnership with the Prentice family. You are a prime example that I use consistently of the hospitality that you show us every time that I come out there, and oftentimes with, every few years there's someone different showing up, and we are made to feel at home. And one of my favorite meals is always having lunch on the farm. It is a highlight for sure. And yeah, bird watching with Stuart is always a joy. And a fond memory of many of my employees who I've taken out there. But no, in all seriousness, we are very grateful for your partnership. We have learned a ton through the partnership over the years. It's definitely informed a lot of what we do and what we look for in other producing partnerships. And so please be sure to express our gratitude to Ellen and Stuart when you see them.
I will. And I thank you guys so much for having me on the podcast, and mostly for your partnership. Really, I think, and I feel like this has been also a big part of my professional growth, has been the partnerships with clients like you guys. You guys, I don't know if you remember that we went for the 10-year anniversary, and you guys taught me how to roast when I was starting how to roast. I was learning how to roast on your machine, and you guys were kind enough to show me. So, I've grown professionally a lot because of you guys coming to visit, and that opportunity to learn from you and what quality is, and have that constant feedback. So we really appreciate the relationship we built with Madcap for so many years.
Well, we'll have to make sure. We're only a couple years away, I think, from our 20-year anniversary. So we'll have to make every effort to get you out here. And who knows what will happen? Probably some more dancing. We got to make sure there's some more dancing. Stuart, we got to get Stuart out here this time. But
yeah. Oh dear.
Well, thanks again, Ashley. Any final thoughts?
You guys summed it up really well. No, thank you for spending part of your morning with us. This has been a highlight and very inspiring. So I'm very grateful for your time.
Such an honor for me. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ashley.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay proper.